The stories presented in this content have been curated from various online sources, including Reddit, Quora, and similar forums. While these narratives are intriguing, they may not reflect real events and we cannot verify their authenticity. For the purpose of storytelling, we have made creative adjustments, adding, removing, or modifying certain elements to enhance the narrative flow and engagement. These stories are shared not only for entertainment, but also to shed light on the darker corners of the internet and the potential consequences of exploring them recklessly. We do not condone or promote any of the actions or events described. Our aim is to inform and entertain, encouraging our audience to browse the internet responsibly. Stay cautious, stay safe, and always prioritize your digital security.
John Spencer had always been a seeker of the unusual. While his college peers spent their nights at parties or buried in textbooks, John preferred solitude and the thrill of the obscure. For him, the dark web was not just a corner of the internet, but a treasure trove of forbidden curiosities. The allure of the unknown, of the hidden and taboo, was irresistible. One night, after a particularly mundane day, John sat at his laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating his cluttered desk. He was scrolling through a hidden marketplace when a peculiar listing caught his eye. The Black Mask, see the world as it truly is. The title was cryptic, but the image intrigued him. A sleek, jet-black mask adorned with carvings that seemed to writhe and twist, even in the grainy photograph. The description read, "An artifact of immense power. Unlock hidden truths. Witness reality, not for the faint of heart." The price was steep, $500 in Bitcoin, but John didn't hesitate. The thrill of owning something so enigmatic outweighed the cost. After a few clicks, the transaction was complete and the screen displayed a simple message. "Your order is confirmed. The truth awaits." John chuckled, half expecting nothing to arrive. He closed his laptop and went to bed, the thought of the mask lingering in the back of his mind. 3 days later, a small, unmarked package arrived at his doorstep. Wrapped in plain brown paper, it bore no return address, no identifying marks. He brought it inside, a strange mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through him. Inside, wrapped in a black cloth, was the mask. It was even more exquisite than the photograph suggested. The carvings spiraled in intricate patterns, seemingly pulsating under the light. It was cold to the touch, unnervingly smooth. John examined it closely, but there were no instructions, no explanation, only the mask. It was late, and the dim light of his desk lamp cast strange shadows on its surface. He felt as though it was watching him, silently daring him to put it on. The temptation was too strong. With a deep breath, John slipped the mask over his face. The moment it touched his skin, a jolt ran through him. The air seemed heavier, charged with an unseen energy. The room was the same, but different. Shadows stretched unnaturally long, and the light seemed sharper, almost too bright. Then he saw them. Out of the corner of his eye, shapes began to materialize. Dark, humanoid figures with elongated limbs and hollow eyes moved through the edges of his vision. They lingered near his bookshelf, by the window, in the corners of the room, always just out of focus. John yanked the mask off, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The figures vanished, the room returning to normal. His heart pounded in his chest as he set the mask down, staring at it as though it might move on its own. The next day, John convinced himself it was a trick of the mind, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. Yet the mask called to him, a silent pull he couldn't resist. That night he wore it again. This time, the shadowy figures were clearer. They glided silently through the streets outside, their eyeless faces turning toward unsuspecting pedestrians. Some followed people, their movements deliberate and predatory. John began to wonder, were they real? Were they always there, invisible to the naked eye? He started wearing the mask more frequently, obsessed with the hidden world it revealed. But the more he wore it, the more he noticed other changes. At first, it was faint, a whisper at the edge of his hearing, too soft to make out. But over time, the voice grew stronger. "I am Cale," it said one night, "your guide to the truth." Cale's voice was deep and resonant, filling John's mind like an echo in an empty hall. It spoke of hidden layers to reality, of beings that watched from the periphery, unseen by most. The mask, Cale claimed, was a tool, a gift meant to enlighten its wearer. But with enlightenment came a price. John's life began to unravel. He started losing time, waking up in places he didn't remember going to. His friends noticed his erratic behavior and distanced themselves, leaving him isolated. Worse, strange marks began appearing on his body, patterns that matched the carvings on the mask. One night, desperate for answers, John tried to throw the mask away. He drove to a remote location, burying it deep in the woods. But when he returned home, it was there, waiting for him on his desk. The whispers turned to demands. Cale urged him to wear the mask constantly, promising power and knowledge. John resisted, but each refusal brought punishment, unexplainable pains, vivid nightmares, and the creeping sense that he was never alone. In his search for answers, John discovered a thread on an obscure forum. Someone had written about a similar mask, claiming it was tied to a cult that worshipped an ancient entity called the Watcher Beyond. The mask, they said, was a vessel meant to prepare a host for the Watcher's arrival. John's blood ran cold. The mask wasn't showing him the truth, it was binding him to the Watcher. Determined to break free, he traced the mask's origins to an abandoned church on the outskirts of the city. Inside, he found shelves lined with similar artifacts, masks, relics, and scrolls in languages he couldn't read. In the center of the room sat a circle of people, their eyes hollow and lifeless. "You can't escape," one of them rasped. "The mask chooses. To be free, you must pass it on." John fled, Cale's voice screaming in his head. Back in his apartment, he stared at the mask, weighing his options. If he destroyed it, Cale warned he would unleash the Watcher upon the world. The only other way to be free was to give the mask to someone else, condemning them to his fate. After days of torment, John made his choice. He packaged the mask, addressed it to a random name, and sent it away. The relief was immediate. The whispers stopped, the marks faded, and John felt normal for the first time in months. But his peace was short-lived. Months later, a package arrived at his door. Inside was the mask and a single note. "You cannot escape. Welcome back.